turn.
Oh no, it's already on.
Good afternoon and welcome to our Lunch and Learn program. How y'all doing today? Doing okay? So I've heard through some kind of rumor mill that people would like to have lunch and learns on Fridays, more specifically on Fridays. Does that suit anybody better, Fridays? Does that seem like the best day? Doesn't really matter to any of you? Well, we're kind of trying to figure out what's the best day so we can figure out how to do that for you guys. So today the VALIC organization is offering lunch to everybody that's here in Sanford Lake Mary, and that's always kind of hard to execute how that works. So each time we do that, the first 40 people who sign up on the Sign Me Up calendar get lunch. Invariably what happens is not all 40 people sign up. So in about 10 minutes, I'm going to look back, and if I give you some kind of high sign, you guys that didn't get lunch when you came in about 10 more minutes, as long as we're going to wait, I'll give you a high sign and come on back there and grab lunch. Who didn't get a lunch today when you came in? A few of you? Okay, so let's wait about 10 minutes and see if some of those people who pre-registered will get here. So today we have a really interesting topic. I've talked to a lot of people who are dealing with student loan debt, so we have a really good topic, and I think a lot of good turnout, a lot of people watching this virtually too. So today we have Daniel Nowak here from the VALIC organization to go over this topic. So Dan, kick it off.
Bill, thank you very much. Hi everybody, how are you doing today? Good, good. My name is Dan Nowak. Like Bill said, I'm a financial advisor with VALIC. We are one of the providers here at the college, amongst others that help you with your 403B retirement planning, drop rollovers and things like that. We have a financial literacy series of seminars, and this one is probably the most popular, unfortunately the most popular, and it's about conquering your student loan debt, because being in the public sector, we're going to talk about programs that you all are eligible for that you may not be aware of. Okay? Now, if you have any questions during this presentation, by all means ask away. If I cannot answer it, I promise I'll get you the answer. All right? So if you could just go through your seminar, your packets here, if you could look at these for a second. I'm sorry to interrupt your lunches. They look like really good, by the way. Okay. So there is on the right side of your packet, there is a book, Conquering Student Loan Debt. Everything you're going to see on this presentation is in this book. So it could refresh your something for you may have heard and want more information on. So when you go back to your classrooms or offices, you can use this as a good reference. Behind that book is a sheet on how the college will help you in the first step of getting your student loans forgiven or reduced, which we'll talk about. This is how you could contact Human Resources to get your employment verification. All right? On the left side, the first page is a seminar evaluation form. So I would ask any of you or all of you if you could please fill this out after the seminar or during the seminar. Give your input. If you think it's good, indicate so. If you think it could use some improvements, please let us know. We're always looking for that as well. If you're interested in what you hear and you feel it really applies to you, and if you'd like to meet with me at a future date, if you could please indicate that there as well. And there's a basket on the table where you signed in. If you could drop these in on the way out, it'd be much appreciated. Okay. And then we have information on the 403B retirement plan over here at Seminole State through VALIC. And we're going to show you how this ties into your student loans as well. And last but not least, there's a picture of my ugly mug. So there's some information about me as well. I've been in the business for about 30 years. I am from New York. Anybody from up north in here? Excellent. Where are you from?
I used to live in Brooklyn. Well,
Brooklyn?
in Manhattan, Greenwich Village.
Greenwich Village, okay. I met my first wife in Brooklyn, Bay Ridge.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice. It's a funny story because there's all this news on TV that there's this big cold front coming down here to Orlando. Expect 40 degrees in the evening. So all of us from New York know that 40 degrees is kind of a heat wave this time of year. My daughter lives in Shreveport, Louisiana, and she sent us a text last night that, oh my God, we're having snow. I can't believe it hasn't had the snow this early in 50-some years. And she sent a video. It looked like someone was having a pillow fight on a roof. So snow to me is 3 feet, so I have to get, adjusted to that a little bit. So. But no matter where you live, unfortunately, there are people with student loan issues, and we're going to talk about that. So the agenda for today, we're going to cover 7 things. Some we're going to be spending a little more time on than others. We're going to talk about the student loan crisis, how you're managing your debt, different repayment plans, tying that into your retirement, which is very important, and then we're going to put it all together for you. And this seminar, usually it should take about half hour, 40 minutes, depending on questions. So, we'll get you out of here in time to go upon your day and do what you have to do. Okay, sound like a plan? Okay, so let's talk about the student loan crisis. So nationally, and this is a survey that came out from CNN. Won't go any farther than that, but anyhow. So it came out from CNN, and it says 7 out of 10 college graduates owe an average of $30,000 in student loan debt. And I just had a question here earlier before, and I think it was you. You asked me, what is the largest student loan debt client that I dealt with? $1.4 million of student loan debt. It was up in New York. They had 2 PhD degrees, one from Harvard, one from Yale. But the average is around 30,000, 50,000, sometimes 100, some more or less. Everybody has their own individual issues, if you will. Americans owe over 1.3, this is very important, the second bullet point. Americans owe over $1.3 trillion in student loan debt, more than auto, credit card, and is exceeded only by home mortgages. Now, who remembers what happened in 2008? What's next in line? Student loans. So we have to really get that under control. And in 2015, 7 million borrowers defaulted on their student loans. Now, there was a recent article, I think it was in the New York Times, recently, a couple months ago, it said there's an average of 3,000 people a day throughout the U.S. defaulting on their student loans because they just can't afford to pay them back. So they have also broken it down by age group or by stage of your life. The earlier generation, of course, will have more student loan debt because they just came out of college and they're starting their careers and they haven't really started to pay that down yet. And then the Generation X and the baby boomers, and I take big offense because I'm a baby boomer, I take big offense to that picture because I hope I don't look anything like that. So I have to talk to Valak about that. So they have the lowest amount of student loan debt on average, but there still is a crisis with them as well. Besides the loan balances, your student loan rates are increasing. So the federal loans, the graduate loans, the Parent Plus loans, all the rates are going up. Your payments are out of control. By working here at Seminole State, in no matter what capacity, from Dr. Lorenz all the way down, you qualify for a special program to help you reduce or eliminate the student loans that you do have that's not available to people in the private sector. Okay. We're going to talk about that right now, if this works. There we go. So, again, public service employees, that's everybody in this room, and everybody out in TV land too. Okay. So there are about $33 million, I wish. I'm a money man. There's about 33 million public service workers out there in the government sector, in teachers such as yourself, professors, wherever you may have it, police officers. 33 million people out there on average, and only about 10% have taken advantage of the public service student loan forgiveness plans that are available to them to help reduce or eliminate those payments that you have. Now, who feels in this room that their student loan payments are too high that they can't afford them? Probably most of you, that's why you're here. So we're going to see if we can help you out with that. So eligibility. Now, before I start to go through eligibility, on the bottom, excuse me, 2007 was when President Obama put into effect the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So it's a 10-year program. So the first set of people who applied for public service loan forgiveness came out of the program in 2017. Okay? Now there were 7,500 people in 2007 that enrolled in the public service loan forgiveness program. Only 500 of them had their loans forgiven. Sorry. All these allergies are... Bill, I know where you're coming from. Only 10% have their loans forgiven. Why is that? Because there is very strict criteria for being in the public service loan forgiveness. First of all, you have to be eligible, which everybody in this room is. Everybody out there watching on their computers is eligible because you work for Seminole State College, which is a 501c3 organization. So you do qualify. You have to be full-time to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. Okay? So you have to work in the public sector, which you all do, and you have to be full-time. The second thing is the loans you have to be eligible loans to be into this program. Now, by eligible, I mean they have to be direct loans. So if you have like Stafford loans, Perkins loans, Parent Plus loans, things like that, they may have been structured as what they call indirect loans, but that's easily transferable, which we're going to talk about. But they have to be direct consolidation loans. Now, if you have a private loan, let's say with a Wells Fargo or a Chase or Bank of America, something like that, unfortunately, they do not qualify for this program. Only loans that are subsidized by the federal government qualify for this program, and they have to be direct. Also, you have to make 120 on-time payments. That's 10 years worth of payments toward your direct loans. Those payments do not have to be consecutive. There just has to be 120 on-time payments. Okay? And they have to be under a qualifying plan. And we're going to go over all this in the upcoming slides. They have to be in a qualifying plan, such as an income-driven plan based on your income, family situation. There's plans called revised pay-as-you-earn, income contingent, which we'll go over, and the standard plan, which is your standard payment that you receive from your loan servicer. Now, there's loan services out there. There's Navient, there's Nelnet, there's Great Lakes. All those names sound familiar, I'm sure? Okay. There's only one loan servicer that is eligible to offer the public service loan forgiveness, and that's Fed Loan Servicing. That's why the loans have to be consolidated with Fed Loan Servicing. So it's just a matter of who reports your loans. That's all that is. And you do not have to work at the same place for 10 years either. You just have to be in the public sector. So people who worked at Valencia and came here, you're still in the public service, vice versa, or anywhere else in the state or the country, really. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. Either I'm doing a good job or that lunch is really good. Okay, one of the two. Both, okay. Older Americans. So we have those three generations, and then there's older Americans as well. Okay. Now, I even take greater offense to this picture, because Valak is saying that all older Americans carry canes, men wear top hats, and women have their hair in buns, which is not true. But here it just gives you good statistics. Americans over age 60 with student loan debt, over age 65. Look at the amount that Americans are carrying into their retirement in student loans. Almost $67 billion. And also the bottom one, the bottom right one, is something to be very concerned about as well. Now, a lot of parents or grandparents want to help their children or grandchildren with their college. So they'll either co-sign for their loans or take the loans out themselves. They're carrying that debt into retirement because the students, their children or grandchildren, a lot of times can't afford to pay those loans back because of whatever situation, economic situation. So they're carrying that student loan debt into retirement, and there's some severe consequences for that. There, okay. So when you retire at age 62, we all know, and it's probably going to be almost age 70 for kids in college right now, but if you have student loans and you've defaulted in those student loans, the government can garnish your Social Security check. I know, a lot of people didn't know that. They can garnish Social Security checks. So some people, or actually many people out there, that's their only source of retirement income is Social Security. And if they owe student loans, the government can garnish that. Shows you $171 million was garnished from Social Security and disability as well. But I guess if you want to turn lemons into lemonades, the most they could take is 15% of your check. That's a pretty eye-opening statistic. So what do you do if you're struggling with student loan debt? Well, you can consolidate. You know how, like, if you have a number of credit cards and all the payments altogether are too much, you move them into one and your payments are lower? That's something you can do. You could also look at the income-driven plans. Now, there's income-driven plans that are available to people in the private sector as well. It's just that you have a much shorter period of time to make those payments, and your loans can be forgiven a lot quicker, so you can focus on other things in your life. Okay? I know I'm flying through these slides, but this is just kind of a backstory. When we get into the meat of it, I'm going to be taking a little bit longer time. And tell me if I'm taking too long, by the way. Okay. Okay, so student loan cancellation. Now, this is interesting. I was just listening to the Dave Ramsey show yesterday. Who's a Dave Ramsey fan? There's a lot of them there. He's great. He's really good. And he had this person call in, and they were not in the public sector. They were in the private sector. And they had $80,000 in student loans. And their loan servicer offered to settle that because they were in default. The loan servicer offered to settle it for $8,000, 10% of their balance. So that means $72,000 was forgiven. But if you're in the private sector, that $72,000 is reportable on as income for your taxes. If public sector, no, you're good to go. You're good to go. So they had kind of a wake-up call that they owed a lot more money in taxes than they needed to. Okay? And there's some student loan repayment assistance organizations down there. You have some in your book as well. That's also available for questions and answers besides myself. Come on, clicker. You the man. Okay. Now let's talk about some repayment plans. Okay. So there's loan deferment. So people who are in college right now, people who haven't graduated yet, they don't have to start paying back their student loans. They can defer paying them until they get their degree, and I believe it's 6 months after, so they can get a job where they can start paying them back. And then you have forbearance. Forbearance, now a lot of teachers that I work with, I don't believe this applies much to Seminole, but they are 10-month employees. So they only work 10 months out of the year, and 2 months they have the summers off. So they're not making any income. So they put their loans into forbearance where they don't have to pay those 2 months. And then they pick back up when school starts, and they start earning a paycheck again. All right, so that's something that you can do as well. And then the consolidation. And of course, private loans, unfortunately, are not eligible for this program. Okay. There are different repayment plans. Now, we haven't really gotten into your specific situation, meaning public sector yet. This is just general. We're about to get into the meat of this. So there's a standard repayment plan. That's the repayment plan you got when you took out your loan and you're eligible to pay your loan back, and your loan servicer gave you, say, this is how much you owe per month. Now, sometimes some loan servicers may say, all right, we have a 10-year repayment plan. Anybody in a 10-year repayment plan here? Okay. Some places have that where it's kind of like instead of a 30-year mortgage, you have a 15-year mortgage. You just pay more for a shorter period of time. But in the public sector, you could talk about the forgiveness. And then you have graduated repayment plans where, let's say you owe $500 a month. They could start you out at $200 a month. And then at the end of 10 years, you might be owing $600 or $800 a month. So you start out low and you end up high. Not a big fan of that one either. Extended, so they can extend your loan. So reverse of the 10-year, they can extend it out to 30 or 35 to lower your payments over a longer period of time. This is the one we're going to focus on the bottom, the income-driven plans. It lowers your monthly loan payment amount, and it's based on your income. Actually, it's based on more than that. It's based on your income. It's based on your marital status. It's based on the number of dependents you have. All that is a factor as to how your student loan payments can be lowered. Now, if you had loans before 2014, your loan payment cannot be more than 15%, okay, okay, 15% of your discretionary income. Does anybody know what discretionary income is? That's pretty much another word for net income. That's after all your deductions have been taken out, health benefits, things like that. It cannot be more than 15%. If you're after 2014, that 15% goes down to 10% of your income. And that's after all your situation, your personal situation is taken into account. There's a pay-as-you-earn. Again, it's 10% of your discretionary income, but it's never more than the 10-year, the standard payment amount. I'm not a big fan of that. What we do is when I help my clients, what we do is we ask Fed Loan Servicing to pick the lowest one. And they do that. Whatever is the lowest you qualify for is the one you're going to get. And that's the one you're going to stay on, providing your situation stays the same. Okay, so you don't have to worry about, gee, which one do I choose? We work with that. I work with my clients through that. Fed Loan Servicing works on that with you. Okay? So what happens? What happens to different types of loans as to how they're structured? So if you have a federal student loan, and should the borrower pass away, whatever period of time you're in that loan, or however long you've been paying that back, the loan is forgiven and nobody owes anybody any money, even if there's a cosigner. If you have a federal plus loan, parent plus, things like that, and the loaner passes away, the loan is forgiven, but the parents or the spouse will owe taxes on the difference. Private lenders, very stringent. Everything goes on and that money is owed. That's with a cosigner, so the cosigner has to be responsible for that loan. Private lender without a cosigner, the lender will attempt to collect the debt from the estate of the deceased. So that's what happens in the event of a death of a borrower. Okay? There we go. All right. All right, so if anyone is in default or considering default, what makes a loan be in default according to the federal government? Well, that's if you have 3 months of non-payment. So if you haven't paid your student loans in 3 months, you are in default of your loans. Then starts things like possible garnishment, collections, things of that nature. FFEL loans, it's 330 days. And those are the consequences that you could possibly incur if your loans ever went into default. So if you're close to being in default, make sure you speak with me, because there's ways to get you back on what they call rehabilitation with your loans. We'll go into that. Rehabilitation is if you make 9 months of on-time payments, you're out of default. So there's that as well. So if you're in default, it's really a good idea we meet. Now there's a difference between default and delinquent. So if you're delinquent, that's if you just miss one payment, then you're considered delinquent. But if you miss 3 payments, then it goes on your credit score as a late payment. Actually, that's not bad, 90 days, but still it goes on your credit score. And we all know what low credit scores, whether if we have them ourselves or we heard about them from stories from other people or whatever have you, but they could have serious impact on credit cards, future credit cards, buying a home, getting insurance, even getting a cell phone plan. If you go from Verizon to Sprint or whatever, they're going to look at your credit score. No, you've got to pay in full. So try not to have your loans in delinquency. If you're close to that, again, let's meet and see how we can get you back on that, but your payments can be lowered through this. Okay. So there's the better news is on the left, the horrible news is on the right. So you're paying your defaulted student loans. So of course you could pay the balance in full and everything's hunky-dory and everybody goes on. But if you're in default, you don't have the whole balance, so that's kind of why you're in default. You can compromise. So like I told you about that person on the Dave Ramsey show, they compromised. But if you're not in the public sector, the difference of what you've compromised for and your balance is taxable to you as 1099 income. You can consolidate, kind of like the example before I used about credit cards, move them into one, lowers your payment. You can do that. Or again, you can go into that rehabilitation, whereas the 9 one-time payments within a 10-month period. You can do that. That's the bad news on the right. And those are all voluntary programs, by the way. You don't have to do those. Those are options you have to get back on track with your student loans. Involuntary, you've got things like wage garnishment, litigation, Social Security offset, things like that. So that's something you want to avoid. The reason we have this up there is just to know that what unfortunately can be done if you're unable to make your payments. So the news gets better, I promise. The news gets better. We're going to send you out of here with smiles on your faces. Okay. So how does this all fit into your retirement planning? Okay. Everybody in this room is going to retire. Everybody listening out in TV land is going to retire someday. And if you're listening to this presentation, everybody has student loans as well. So how do they both fit into each other? Okay. So a little bit of statistics here. So people who have student loans, over 50% of people with student loans contribute the least amount towards your retirement, less than 5%. And as you can see here, as the statistics change, as your loans decrease, your contributions to retirement can get higher. So you can save for your retirement, you can start paying yourself and not have to pay someone else. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on that there? Come on, everybody. Must be the lunch, because after you eat, you get the... I know I'm like that. We should have had coffee here. Okay. This is a chart that's going to wake you up. Okay? Now, we've taken an example here. It's a first-year teacher earning $39,500. They're single and they have no dependents. This is a pure example, okay? I want you to focus on the bottom left box first. So if they have a standard repayment plan, because they're in the public sector, so they have the 10-year option available to them, if they just go through a 10-year plan, their interest rate is 6.8%, and their monthly payment is $575.42. So instead of paying an amount over 20 years, they've saved $4,700 approximately by doing the 10-year, the lower time period, higher payment. But because of they're in the public sector, you took the same criteria and they took a look at the income. And they said, well, based on that, you don't owe $575 a month to us. Your payment can go as low as $178.42. So we just saved you $300 a month just because you work in a public service organization. Now, if you look on the right, that $178 is not even enough to cover the interest that's owed. The interest on this particular loan is $283. You're only paying $178, so your loan balance keeps growing. But look what happens on the bottom at the end of 10 years. The interest you saved is $47,000. The balance grew $50,000 to $67,000. At the end of 10, all that's forgiven. So you saved yourself $115,000 in this example. This person did. So that balance has been forgiven. Now you have to meet the criteria, which I believe most of you or all of you do by definitely working for Seminole State, but as far as all the other criteria. Now, let's say someone is making $60,000 a year or $75,000 a year, and they're married and they have 3 children. Well, their payments are going to be lower, lower than this, because they have 3 children, 3 dependents, or they may have a parent living with them. That's a dependent. That will lower your payments as well. Also, something that can really affect, and this is a personal decision, something that can really affect your payments is that if you file your taxes, if you're married and you file your taxes jointly. Anybody married file taxes jointly? Okay. So when you apply for public service loan forgiveness, the joint income is counted. So let's say you make $50,000 and your spouse makes $50,000. So $100,000 is looked at that. Whereas if you file your taxes married filing separately, only your income is counted for this and your payments are lower. But if you do that, if you file filing separately, then I believe you give up a certain type of credit or something. So that's definitely something you want to run by an accountant before you make any of those decisions. But these are all ways that people have kind of tweaked their situations to get those student loan and payments down. But I can't stress enough, make sure you run that tax filing situation by your accountant to make sure that you're not losing money by doing that. Okay. But do you see how the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program reduce your payments and eliminate them? So there is hope for people who have student loans. Now, what does this say? Okay, what does this say about your retirement planning? Now, everybody in this room is either in the FRS or in the ORP, the Optional Retirement Program, correct? Okay. So if you're in the FRS, you're contributing 3%, no more, no less. In the ORP, I believe it's 5%, I'm not too sure the percentage there, and the college matches. Okay. So if you wanted to contribute more towards your retirement, but you had student loans that were preventing you from doing that, which is like millions and millions of people, this program just freed up some money for you. So in this example, you've freed up $300 a month. Well, gee, let me take 100 of that and put that towards my retirement, and I still have $200 to pay other bills or whatever I need to do. Okay? Now, how your retirement plans work here, the FRS or the ORP, they're automatically deducted through your payroll, through your paycheck. They grow tax deferred, and of course, it helps increase your savings. Now, companies like VALIC, we work with the college where we offer additional retirement options that you can contribute to, and there's in your packet there, it talks about the 403B, that where you can put in additional dollars. So instead of paying someone else for your student loans, you've reduced that and now you're paying yourself. And that's a much better payment plan. Everybody agree? Okay. An example here. So if you're putting in 4% of your salary, someone 30 years old putting in 4% of your salary, when they turn 65, at an average growth rate of around 6%, which hopefully will be more, with that time period, you're looking at having $350,000 for your retirement. But just by increasing that contribution by 2%, you've made an additional $175,000. So besides saving you $115,000 earlier on your student loans, you've now made $175,000 more by just taking a small portion of that savings and putting it towards your retirement. Pretty powerful stuff, isn't it, student loan from this public service? So congratulations, everybody, for working here at Seminole. That's great. My company doesn't offer that. That's really good. All right, let's see. So let's put it all together. How are we doing on time, Bill? All right, everything? Doing good. Excellent, okay. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Again, those seminar evaluation sheets. Now, I help my clients go through this process to make sure that all the steps, like the employment verification, is taken care of. Make sure that you have qualifying employment. All those qualifications, I work with my clients to make sure that those are met, to make sure your loans are covered with, and you're covered. Also, there's an annual recertification that your employer needs to do, in this case Seminole State needs to do, just to say, okay, this person is still working for a public service organization and they still qualify for federal loan, student loan, the reduction in the payments. Now, you can either, this is just like anything out there in the world, so in order to become a client of mine, you may want to just have a formal relationship. Put that extra dollars in a 403B plan. Maybe you need help in drop, if anybody's in drop. We work with that, or just general investing topics, if you will. If you rather go it on your own, which is fine too, there are resources, which we'll put up in a minute, where you can contact just to use the book as a reference and see and go through that and make sure you're on track. And of course, I'll always be here as a reference as well. So that's kind of something like when it comes to investing. You have your people who like to do it on their own. And those are people that invest maybe at a Vanguard or a Fidelity or something like that, where you call an 800 number. And then you have people who invest in companies like VALIC, AXA, you may have heard of, Edward Jones, who are more hands-on with their clients and give them more assistance. And either one is fine. Just an option there for you. Okay? So again, consider working with a VALIC advisor. We can help you go through the process of the student loans. We can talk to you about the retirement plans available for you besides FRS or the ORP here at the college. You have the option of doing a Roth here as well, which is huge. Everybody familiar with a Roth, how that works? Okay, so that's, you pay taxes on your contribution, but you don't pay taxes when you take the money out. So it's, would you rather pay taxes on the seed or the harvest that it grows to? That's a Roth available to you. There's also a retirement plan available here called a 457 plan. Has anybody ever heard of that before? Those are really great plans, and especially for younger teachers. Why I say that is because when you're young or just getting started in your career, such as yourself, you don't know if you're going to be working at Seminole State in 10, 15 years. You may not. You don't know. You may move to California. You may move to New York. You may go to Valencia, whatever have you. If you're under 59 and a half and you switched employers, any money in a 457 plan you can take out with no 10% penalty to use for expenses or whatever have you. Okay. The downside of a 457 plan is if you can't take it out at all if you stay with your employer until age 70 and a half. So 403Bs are really good for people like mid-40s and over. 457 might be good for people younger than that. Just a general thought, but it depends on your own circumstances. I'll be happy to explain the differences for you if you'd like to meet and go over your student loans as well. Like I said, we help folks with drop because you have 60 days to make a decision of your drop account or the whole amount will be taxed. So there's some very important decisions. Just like student loans, you have very critical, time-sensitive decisions you need to make. Okay? If you want to do it, try it out on your own. You can go on VALIC.com and you don't have to be a client, but there's many calculators available to you. There's the savings calculator. How much am I saving right now? How much am I paying out in debt? How will this affect my retirement? And that will give you answers as to what you need to save to get to a certain goal. Let's say I want to have $300,000 by the time I'm age 65. Well, what are you doing now? And this is what it'll take to get there. If you want a little help on that, VALIC has a program called a Retirement Pathfinder. This is something that can be taken with you throughout your journey in life until you get to retirement. This is very customizable and it takes into account what you have, where you want to be. It tells you your shortfall. It tells you what you need to get to a goal. It takes into account life expectancy, and this has gone over so well with folks, especially in the higher education market, such as yourself, with student loans, because then they can really start keeping track of where they are in life with their finances. So that's available for my clients. And if you would like us to work with you, we have a comprehensive financial plan that can take into account everything. Whether you have other accounts at a Merrill Lynch or a Morgan Stanley that are non-retirement accounts, we can work that in and we can see if you're taking too much risk on those accounts, you're not taking enough risk for the length of time you have till you need those funds, and vice versa. We can incorporate trusts and estate planning and all that kind of stuff in there as well. So that's a service we offer. Anything you can get at like a Merrill Lynch or a Morgan Stanley, we can do for you here at VALIC, besides the retirement planning, which is a very important part of what we do as well. Okay? These are those resources I told you about if you want to do it on your own. This is also in your book. These resources are in your book. Now, the Federal Student Loan Support Center, now who here has an FSA ID? Okay, great. If you don't, I strongly advise you to get one because, as you know, who does have an FSA ID, there you go on studentloans.gov, put in your ID, your password, and you see all your loans. It will tell you there if those loans are direct, indirect, or private. And if you call the number there, depending on the person you get, they could be able to maybe navigate you on this student loan process. But going back to the statistics of 2017, where only 10% of the people applied, 10% of the people who applied got their loans forgiven. That was because of misinformation that they were given. So you don't know who you're going to be talking to on on the other end of that phone. Now myself, I've been doing this for many, many years. I have a colleague who has been doing it for many more years, and he will do a WebEx with you individually. If you like, you can log into your studentloans.gov account. He'll go over all that with you, make sure you're in the right plan, as will I, but that's his passion. That's all he ever does. So he's really good. His name is Mike Stevens. He works, he's a VALIC advisor as well. Okay. And finally, the seminar evaluation form. If you would really kindly fill that out. If you're interested in meeting, please indicate that. And any feedback on this presentation that you thought was good, could have been done better. Myself, if I was too boring, if I was okay, or whatever have you. And if you can kindly put it in the basket on the way out, that would be much appreciated. It's marked right back there. That's it. Okay, and the good old VALIC disclosure. Yes?
Is there somewhere we can go to check to make sure we're signed up for the plan, see how many outside payments we've had, and when our expected date is, and that our employer has verified all this?
Yes, you can go to studentloans.gov. That's one of the websites.
I've been on there many times, and I have a lot of trouble navigating it to find out if I'm doing what I need to do to be on track.
Who's your loan servicer?
Fed loans.
Fed Loans. Okay. Were they able to tell you if you're on track or not?
They're,
So maybe then we need to meet. We maybe need to meet, and I'll call.
I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't know.
Well, again, that's very important. So you want to make sure, because there's criteria is pretty stringent. So maybe we need to meet. You can indicate on your evaluation form. We'll call Fed Loan Servicing, and I'll ask questions that maybe you didn't think of asking or whatever, just to make sure. And if things are really twisty or whatever, we'll get my colleague involved as well. But either way, we will definitely get you back on track if you're not on track already to where you need to be, because that is crucial. And also, if people worked in the public sector before they came to Seminole State, if you were in an income-driven plan, that could qualify for those 10 years as well. We can check that out as well. Good question. Thank you for asking that. Anything else? Oh, more. Awesome. Okay, please.
So I'm looking at the chart on page 17,
Mhm.
where the student starts out with 50,000.
Yes.
That
Yep.
minimum.
Mhm.
At the end, it's 67,000. It's all limit.
Correct.
Are there any safeguards in place to ensure that the federal government doesn't get rid of this program after you're at year 8 and all of a sudden you owe 63 and then you owe more than you started? And
Good question. Very good question. There has been talk of President Trump wanting to maybe do away with this. But if you have gotten into the program before, should he decide to do that, before that's happened, you're going to be grandfathered. Another very good question. So it's good to make sure you're on track for this or in the program as soon as possible.
Any other questions? All right, y'all got Dan's card, you give him a call, or he'll be up front. You can ask any particular questions after the program, just give him a hand.
Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. I appreciate it. Look forward to working with all of you.